All right, finally today, we're going with our forgiveness. And as I've been saying, we're not doing New Year's resolutions because that's played out. We're trying to get good karma around our teams, certainly heading into a divisional round. And the Sixers certainly could use some good karma, trying to get that negativity and that weight lifted off our shoulders. And today is one of those ones that maybe some of you don't think we should forgive, but we're certainly going to forgive him, and that is Andy Reid. Andy Reid was our head coach from 99 to 2012, compiled 130, 93, and 1 record. However, he was just 10 and 9 in the playoffs. He did lead the Eagles to 6 NFC East titles, 1 Super Bowl appearance, and 5 appearances in the NFC Championship game. We were tough on him, and we're probably tougher on Nick Sirianni for way less than we were for Andy Reid. So some of the things we used to or that used to annoy us about Andy Reid were his clock management. Always seemed like he was moving in slow motion sometimes when he needed to be up in the tempo. Play calling, I don't know how many times we would say, Andy, just run the ball. There was a point in time where in the papers it would always talk about the run-to-pass ratio, and it was always 65% pass at a time when running sometimes would have been better. He did kind of adjust later in his career. Always an issue with his halftime adjustments. Never made adjustments. I don't know how many times this podcast started due to one of those games, the Tennessee game to open the season. The Eagles had a big lead. Never made any adjustments. Tennessee came back and beat them. He was a player's coach. Some people might say that Donovan sort of ran the show. We were hard on him, like I said, but the expectations were high. And when he did leave, despite the fact that the national media was like, oh, Philadelphia doesn't know what they're losing, it was time. And I was talking to somebody at work yesterday, and this is very eerily similar. What's happening in Pittsburgh is very eerily similar to what happened with Andy Reid. I think it's time for Tomlin to have a clean break and a fresh start, the team to have one, just like it was for the Eagles at the time. And again, we're tougher on Nick Sirianni for lesser things than what we should have been tougher on Andy, I think, sometimes. However, when he left, it did work out well for both teams at the time. He's had success in Kansas City. We finally did win the Super Bowl with Doug. So what are we forgiving Andy for? Well, I think we're going to forgive Andy for not winning the big one. I think that year they finally made it to the Super Bowl. That was their Super Bowl, is just making it there. And completely got they were in the game, but they got out-coached really in that Super Bowl. You can put that one on Donovan as well. I'm going to forgive him for not putting the players in the right position. If I had $1 for every time I heard him say, I need to do a better job of putting players in the right position, I could retire. And it just seemed, as much as he said it, never really put them in the right position, as he never won a Super Bowl. I'm going to forgive him for not being the head coach in Philly that he's been in Kansas City. Yes, Patrick Mahomes helps that a lot, but a lot of those things, the clock management, play calling, the halftime adjustments, we saw it in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. He's doing that. Those are things we wanted him to do here. Never did it here. Never really focused on linebackers, and that's something that the organization still to this day doesn't. Never gave Donovan the weapons he needed, and the one year they did go to the Super Bowl, but he could not manage that relationship between Donovan and T.O. I think, and say what you want, I think if you put Nick Sirianni in that situation, it might be a different outcome. So I forgive him for not getting Donovan the weapons he needed and ultimately putting Donovan in the position to be successful. And truthfully, Andy, if he had the personality and doing the State Farm commercials and things like that he does now in Kansas City, that he did here, I think it could have been fun. It could have been fun, but I get Andy needed this experience to become who he was in Kansas City, just like we needed Andy Reid to appreciate the Super Bowl with Doug Peterson. Finally, I'm going to forgive Andy Reid for beating us in Super Bowl 57. It should have been our Super Bowl, But you know what? I forgive you for that. It was a great 14 years. The very beginning of my season tickets were the very beginnings of the Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb era, and we had a blast going to those games. It was so much fun. Every year we had a shot. So, Andy, I forgive you. And finally, a little bonus here. Most importantly, I think we're going to forgive you, Andy, for not appreciating how great you were while you were here. Yes, you weren't. You had your issues, and just like every coach we've ever had, every player, there always are some issues, but I don't think we appreciated Andy Reid. So, Andy, I forgive you for us not appreciating for being so hard on you. And I guess that's not really forgiving you. That's basically it. I'm sorry for not appreciating what we had while we had it, the stability and everything we had. Yes, it was frustrating as hell a lot of times. And for all the frustrations that you caused us, I forgive you. And I apologize for not appreciating that stability and the greatness that you were. You're the all-time winningest coach. And as I said, it was a ton of fun those 14 years while you were here. Lots of frustration, but it was fun. So I forgive you for not winning the big one, most importantly, here in Philadelphia. Andy, the time is yours.